Four downs for the Cleveland Browns are pretty straightforward. I mean, you could pretty much guess it.
Myles was a good communicator throughout the spring. We obviously talked through the coaching search, free agency, before the draft. He was good in terms of sharing his travel plans in the offseason, things like that. So that was all very, very normal as he's been accustomed to later in his career.
The Cleveland Browns are walking into another season where almost everything starts with the quarterback. But this time, the question is different. It is not simply whether Shedeur Sanders can become the guy. Deshaun Watson is still standing directly in his way. Todd Monken has a decision coming that could shape his entire first season in Cleveland, and Rich Eisen believes this quarterback situation is easily one of the biggest stories surrounding the Browns. And somehow, quarterback is not even Cleveland's only massive question. Myles Garrett is gone. A completely new coaching era has started. Young offensive weapons have arrived, and the offensive line has been rebuilt. Cleveland suddenly looks very different from the team we watched last season. That means 2026 could become the beginning of something exciting, or it could expose just how far away this team still is. Rich Eisen's 4 downs format works perfectly for Cleveland because this team really does have 4 huge questions hanging over it. Who wins the quarterback job? Can Todd Monken completely change this offense? What does the defense become without Myles Garrett? And finally, are the Browns actually rebuilding, or are they capable of surprising people immediately? The interesting thing is that all 4 questions are connected. Cleveland finished 5-12 last season. That was enough to end the Kevin Stefanski era and bring Todd Monken to town. Monken arrives with a reputation built around offense, and he now gets the chance to build his own version of the Browns. But before any offensive system can work, somebody has to run it. And that brings us right back to Shedeur Sanders and Deshaun Watson. This is going to dominate Cleveland training camp, Watson versus Sanders. Unlike some quarterback competitions where everybody already knows who the organization really wants to start, this one feels much harder to predict. Watson brings experience, and he has played at an elite NFL level before. But Cleveland obviously cannot make this decision based on something that happened years ago. They need to know which quarterback gives Monken the best chance right now. Then there is Shedeur.
I think Shedeur's come miles in terms of his progressions, getting the ball out, his understanding of concepts. I think he's really, really come a long way.
His rookie year was far from perfect. There were moments where he looked comfortable and moments where you could see exactly how much development was still needed. But that is what makes year 2 so interesting. Cleveland now has to find out whether those rookie struggles were simply part of the learning process or whether they exposed bigger limitations. And the most interesting part is that Sanders and Watson have been competing while also working together. They were even training together before camp with receivers including Jerry Jeudy and Isaiah Bond. That creates a fascinating situation. They can help each other improve right now, but eventually Monken has to pick one of them.
See, I think the way how y'all look at things is different than how we look at things. We look at coming to practice every day being the best player we can be as an individual and as a good teammate. Y'all look at it as like a competition. It's like that's not really nothing I'm just focused on. I'm focused on developing as a player.
That competition becomes even more important because Cleveland cannot afford another season where quarterback uncertainty controls everything. Monken needs an identity. If Shedeur wins the job, then Cleveland can finally start finding out whether he is part of its long-term future. If Watson wins it, then the pressure immediately shifts onto him, because after everything surrounding his Browns tenure, simply being slightly better will not be enough. He would have to prove he can actually move this offense consistently. That makes training camp much bigger than a normal battle for QB1. It could determine the direction of the entire franchise.
It's an honor, so I don't take it for granted. I work hard to do what I need to do each and every day to just try to put out the best product I can on the field.
This might actually be the question underneath every other question. Can Todd Monken fix this offense? Cleveland did not hire Todd Monken to keep everything the same. They hired him because the offense needed a new direction, and Monken is not walking into an empty cupboard either. The Browns invested heavily in helping the offense during the 2026 draft. They used the 9th overall selection on Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano. Then they took Texas A&M receiver Casey Concepcion at number 24. After that came Washington receiver Denzel Boston early in round 2. That tells you exactly what Cleveland was thinking. Protect the quarterback, give him weapons, and then find out what this offense can become. The receiver room might become especially interesting. Jerry Jeudy is still here, And now Cleveland has added 2 talented young receivers who can completely change the competition around him. Conception gives them another explosive option, while Boston brings size and a completely different type of matchup. That matters because whoever wins the quarterback competition should have more options than Cleveland quarterbacks have had in the recent past. But talent alone will not fix everything. Monken has to make these pieces work together. He has to figure out his offensive line, establish the running game, and decide how aggressively he wants his quarterback attacking downfield. Most importantly, he needs to create an offense that finally makes opposing defenses uncomfortable. That is why Monken might actually be under more pressure than whichever quarterback starts. If the offense suddenly improves, then Cleveland will finally have something to build around. If it looks exactly like the old Browns offense, then the quarterback debate will explode all over again. What does the defense look like without Myles Garrett? This might be the strangest adjustment Browns fans will make all season. For years, you could talk about Cleveland's defense and immediately start with Myles Garrett. Not anymore. Garrett was traded to the Los Angeles Rams in a blockbuster deal that sent Jared Verse and draft compensation back to Cleveland. That changed the identity of this defense overnight. Garrett was not simply another defensive end. Opposing offenses had to build protection plans around where he was lining up, and his presence could change how an entire offense approached Cleveland. Now the Browns need to find a completely different way to create that pressure.
Verse was a young stud for that Los Angeles Rams team, and now they bring in the man who has the most sacks ever recorded in one NFL season. I love the move for the Rams. Obviously, the Browns have had to say publicly a couple of different times, we're not trading them. Now they have traded them.
But this is where the trade becomes interesting. Cleveland did not lose Garrett and receive nothing that can help immediately. Jared Verse gives them a young pass rusher who already has enormous expectations attached to him, and he does not have to become Myles Garrett. Trying to replace Garrett player for player would be almost impossible. Instead, Cleveland needs Verse to become the centerpiece of the next version of this defense. There is still talent around him. Carson Schlesinger gives Cleveland an exciting young building block at linebacker. Denzel Ward remains important in the secondary, while Quincy Williams adds another experienced piece. So this defense does not suddenly become irrelevant because Garrett left. But somebody has to become the player opposing offenses fear, and that is the challenge. When Cleveland reaches 3rd and long against Lamar Jackson or another dangerous AFC quarterback, there is no longer an automatic answer of simply letting number 95 destroy the play. Someone else has to become that difference maker. Whether that is Verse or whether Cleveland creates pressure collectively could determine how quickly this defense moves beyond the Garrett era. 4th down. Are the Browns rebuilding, or can they actually win now? This is where Cleveland becomes difficult to read. Look at some of these moves and you see a rebuild. They traded Garrett, they drafted young offensive talent, they have a second-year quarterback competing for the job, and they changed head coaches. Everything screams transition. But look closer, and Cleveland has not completely stripped this roster down either. There are enough experienced players here that Monken cannot simply treat 2026 like one giant experiment. And the schedule gives Cleveland an opportunity to show us what they really are very quickly. They begin on the road against Jacksonville. Then they stay on the road against Tampa Bay before finally returning home against Carolina. After that comes Pittsburgh on Thursday night, and then Baltimore arrives only a couple of weeks later. That means Cleveland will not have months to figure everything out. We should get an idea of what this team really is pretty quickly.
Todd Monken, if he chooses Deshaun Watson as his starter, I'm sure there will be plenty of backlash. There will be plenty of social media outrage. But if Deshaun goes out there and looks anything like the quarterback that the Browns thought they were getting when they traded for him, then I think all of that dies down.
Imagine if Shedeur wins the starting job and Cleveland starts winning early. Suddenly, this entire conversation changes. Instead of asking whether Cleveland is rebuilding, people will start asking whether the Browns found their quarterback. Monken will immediately receive credit for changing the offense. The young receivers will start getting attention, and that Garrett trade will start being judged very differently if Verse becomes a major defensive piece. But the opposite can happen just as quickly. If Cleveland struggles early and the quarterbacks keep getting switched, every old question comes rushing back. Suddenly, people will wonder whether the Browns really solved anything or simply changed the names involved. That is what makes this season so important. Rich Eisen can break this team down into 4 downs, but eventually they all lead to one final question. Does Cleveland finally know where it is going? For several years, the Browns have felt trapped between trying to win immediately and trying to solve problems that never completely disappear. Quarterback has been one of them. Offensive consistency has been another. Now they have changed the coach, changed major pieces of the roster, traded away the face of their defense, and invested premium draft capital into protecting the quarterback and adding weapons. There are no easy excuses left. The Browns don't necessarily need to become Super Bowl contenders overnight, but they need answers. They need to know whether Shedeur Sanders can become their future or whether someone else needs to be found. They need to know whether Todd Monken can build an offense that actually works in Cleveland. They need to know whether Jarrett Verse and this defense can create a new identity without Myles Garrett. And they need to know whether all these young pieces are the beginning of another long rebuild or the beginning of something much faster. Because if Cleveland gets even 3 of those answers right, this season could look completely different from what people expect. But if the quarterback question remains unanswered and the offense struggles again, then 2026 becomes another year of uncertainty. So what do you think? When week 1 arrives, should Todd Monken hand this offense to Shedeur Sanders, or does Deshaun Watson still give Cleveland the better chance to win right now? Because whichever answer Cleveland chooses could define much more than one season.